What's up, RotoBallers? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jorden Hill. Week 9 is now wrapped up, and it's time to take a look at some players that have been a disappointment for fantasy purposes in recent weeks. We'll talk about their future outlook and whether or not you can rely on these guys going forward. Let's kick things off with a quarterback and talk about Lamar Jackson. Jackson has finished back-to-back weeks with fewer than 12 fantasy points, and the Ravens are still winning games and putting up a bunch of points with Gus Edwards and Keaton Mitchell leading the way and scoring touchdowns. Jackson has been a great real-life NFL quarterback this season, but he's averaging just 48 rushing yards per game, which is a lot for a quarterback, just noticeably less than he's averaged in seasons past. Still, this rushing production gives Jackson a really high floor, and we all know that his ceiling is as high as anyone's. The Ravens' defense has been excellent this season, so they haven't had to air it out a whole lot, but this might change over the next few weeks with matchups against the Browns, Bengals, and Chargers all coming up. Keep Jackson locked into your fantasy lineups as a high-end QB1. Let's move on to Kenneth Walker. Walker hasn't scored as a top 12 fantasy back since week 6, and he's had 2 games in a row of fewer than double-digit carries while getting outsnapped by rookie Zach Charbonnet. And of course, it doesn't help that Walker's involvement as a receiver has been minimal. Charbonnet didn't see many touches this past week either, and the Seahawks were blown out by the Ravens, so it's not totally shocking that Walker wasn't being force-fed the football. Regardless, the snap counts are quite concerning, as is Seattle's upcoming schedule with matchups against the Cowboys, Rams, 49ers, and Eagles all coming up. I still can't imagine benching Walker unless we see Charbonnet completely take over this backfield, which I just really don't see happening. Despite some inefficiencies, Walker has the potential to break off a big run on any given play, so I think you just need to continue to start him and hope for the best. Next, we have James Cook. Cook handled just 6 carries and 4 receptions this week, totaling 39 yards, and he has only 3 top 15 fantasy performances on the season. In addition, Buffalo just signed Leonard Fournette, who could be active and on the field as early as next week. We have no idea how involved Fournette is going to be, but it's highly unlikely that he becomes some sort of workhorse. Either way, Cook isn't going to be a must-start player every single week, but he looks like a pretty good option over the next 2 weeks with matchups against the Broncos and Jets on tap. The Broncos have been better against the run recently, but they've been very vulnerable to running back production over the course of the season. The last running back I'll mention is Zach Moss, and he's the first player listed that I'd be truly worried about. His snaps have fallen off a cliff over the past 2 weeks, as he saw the field for just 21% of them on Sunday. Jonathan Taylor has officially taken over the Colts' backfield, which we all knew would happen eventually. I don't think you can consider starting Moss going forward, but you can stash him as a high-quality handcuff if you have enough bench spots. In shallow leagues, I think he can be dropped. At wide receiver, let's start with George Pickens. Pickens has just 3 receptions over his past 2 games, with 1 catch for -2 yards this past Thursday. What's even more concerning is that he's been out-targeted 23-10 by Deontay Johnson since his return from IR. Maybe I'm a biased Steelers fan, but I still wouldn't be looking to cut Pickens. Pittsburgh doesn't have many receiving weapons right now, and Pickens remains the team's best vertical threat. That said, he's far from a must-start option, and probably projects as a middling flex play until proven otherwise. Finally, we'll close things out with Michael Thomas. Thomas earned just 1 target and finished with 0 receptions in Week 9, with Juwan Johnson more involved in the offense. Despite having 62 targets on the season, Thomas is the wide receiver 46.5 PPR scoring, while teammate Rashid Shaheed is wide receiver 27 with 41 targets on the year. We haven't seen a big performance from Thomas all season, but up until last week, he was consistently hitting at least 40 receiving yards. He should bounce back and have a relatively high floor most weeks, but with Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, and Taysom Hill all getting a lot of work, Thomas really doesn't offer much upside. It ultimately depends on your league and roster size, but I'd feel pretty comfortable moving on from Thomas if there's a more enticing option on waivers. Hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead and leave a comment down below with the players that have you panicked as we've reached the halfway point of the NFL season. Also, please remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe to RotoBaller for all the fantasy football analysis you need to help you win big in 2023. Thanks so much for tuning in, and best of luck in Week 10.